Pacific Gateway Center was started by three churches, Aldergate, Kaumokapili, and St. Elizabeth's in the Kalihi-Palama area. And originally there were only 4 workers, and they were responding to the influx of Asians who were coming because of the Vietnam War. And of course by 1975, it was really, really huge numbers that were coming in, so they incorporated in 1984. Well, I came back from living in Bangladesh in 1988, and I heard about this organization. At that time, it was called Kalihi-Palama Immigrant Service Center. I think it fit me to a T because I was helping people, although not on a paid level, just helping people who needed help. And another organization recruited me in Palolo. And this other organization was also looking for an executive director. So they combined forces, and I was drawn to the Kalihi-Palama Immigrant Service Center.
I was involved with the Kalihi-Palama Education Center, and one of the other projects was the Immigrant Center, Kalihi-Palama Immigrant Center. Each of us were trying to deal with poverty in some different level, and we had some overlap. At the Ed Center, we taught English as a second language for some of the people at the Immigrant Center, and helped each other out. In 1987, I was head of a small private school, and when I walked around, the students would go, "Dr. D alert," and they would all be like this. So I asked Dr. Miang if I could come and help children of immigrants with their homework because their parents didn't speak English. So I volunteered, and they were just wonderful. I mean, they smiled and they would say, "Hey, Dorothy, help me, help me." And I felt like I was doing something very important.
My name is James Chan. I came here in 1983 when I was 12 years old. And it was such an eye-opener coming from Hong Kong. When we first got here, we lived in Kalihi, and specifically Kokea Street, and in one of the apartment buildings. We had to share a 3-bedroom apartment unit with 3 families. They're my aunties, my uncles, and my cousins. We didn't have any furniture, so our table was basically a cardboard box. I first heard of Pacific Gateway Center through a classmate of mine when I was in 6th grade. And she would bring me over to the center at the Kalihi area, and we would have group sessions that we learned English, and also there are games and activities where people sing, and I feel like I belong there because everybody have the same upbringing and from the same background.
The Kalihi-Palama Immigrant Service Center was located in a little school building next to St. Elizabeth's Church. And what I brought was my experience overseas, as well as my experience here in the United States as an immigrant. Coming from Burma, I had never seen elevators. I didn't know how to operate an elevator. I had never seen washing machines, and I didn't believe they would really clean clothes. So it was very, I think, fulfilling for me to walk through the steps with them because I had walked the same paths they did.
When I was going to Pacific Gateway Center, there are a lot of volunteers that were at the program that were able to teach us. And many of them are older, they are professionals. Some of them are accountants, teachers specifically. And just when I look at them, I said, they were just like us, one of us. And look how well they have done for themselves over the years. And so me and my sister were like, we want to set our goal to see, we want to better ourselves. And it took a long time, but step by step, led us to do well in school, continue our education, and subsequently I was able to get accepted to University of Hawaii.
Well, the goal of the organization has never changed. And it was the same goal that I had, which was to help people stand on their own 2 feet. When they came here, they didn't know they had to get a state ID, they didn't know they had to get a TB test, all of those basic things. And to help them then get on their own 2 feet, get a job, learn English, and survive here. And how I was helped was that the staff helped me. And the staff that we recruited came from the community itself. We had somebody from the Filipino community, we had a Tongan, we had a Korean, we had actually several Vietnamese and several Lao, and we also had Burmese. So all of those people would also relate back to me what their clients were going through. So we were able to, get together and say, okay, this is how we help each other.
My name is Daniel de la Cruz. We own, meaning me, my wife, and I have one partner. Our company, our bake shop is called Cruzan's Bake Shop. Pacific Gateway has really helped us get started because if you have the desire to work hard, they have the facility to offer you, the ones you cannot afford when you first start. My business is located in Kaimuki. It's an old bakery that I refurbish. It's about 1,500 square feet. It's right across St. Louis Drive-In. We specialize on breakfast pastries, muffins, croissants, Japanese Hong Kong style pastries. That's how we started. We kept on doing. I supply probably 90–95% of all the hotels in Waikiki that are boutique hotels. And you know what, guys? I owe it all to Pacific Gateway. Dr. Amayang, Avi, Gloria, the whole crew, they're always there to help you.
After graduated from College of Engineering in 1996, I started working for Dig Pacific Construction, one of the larger companies in Hawaii. From there, I learned how to do project management and also doing design. And after working 7 years for this big company, I was ready to make my move. And so I jumped and started my own company. Now I'm the owner, president of my company, Landmark Pacific Builders. I have a crew of 12 people, workers that work for my company. And we do mostly residential houses and some commercial.
The name of the small enterprise is called Hawaii's Best Brittle, and the lady's name is Mary. About 1998 or so, when things really got tough, she lost her job, and she decided not to go back to the mainland but just stay here. And people liked her brittle, so she started making brittle, and it was the best brittle ever. And the title is so apt because it is Hawaii's Best Brittle. She started out in the kitchen incubator, and she's now very successful. One reason why I think of her, when we were at the 83 North King, all of us were sitting together. We had lemongrass, we have all the retail incubator, and then us and the people who wanted to, sell their wares there. She was one of them, and her brittle would be there. And that brittle would call to me. I would look and try not to look, but it called to me. And then at the end of the day, I would break down and buy a couple and I'd eat it. But it was so good, and it was a great reward at the end of the day. And she is, selling her brittle, and people just love her.
I think of a woman named Lupe that was from Samoa and had made jewelry. And the jewelry, once she had enough money to get the products and had her family making them, her jewelry was sold all over. I mean, it was just beautiful, beautiful jewelry. I still have some of it. I think of a man that used the money to buy a taxi cab. And then nowadays he has a fleet of taxi cabs. So there are so many different stories of what happens here. And I'm just thrilled to be a big part of it.
I worked at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in the surf room as a waitress, serving food to customers coming in from the mainland, Europe, all over the world. About 6 years ago, I retired, and then but I always liked to bake cookies. And I says, oh, I gotta try this. And so I kind of researched it out, and I found the kitchen, the incubator, and it was just kind of opening up. That Dr. Miang, she's a wonderful lady. She's like an angel from heaven. I never met a lady like that in my whole life. Avi is so wonderful too. He's the kindest man on the planet. You couldn't find a better manager than that. When I started to go into the big trade shows and the big craft fairs, that's when the business really took off. It's like it's gonna explode this year. And I don't know how, I'm so happy. I don't know, I'm just really kind of shocked too. The orders are coming in, and I know I'm going to be busy, and I have to hire more. I've hired people, and they're good people. They're good people to work with. I just totally love it. I really, really love it. Love my business.
The board of directors have been the best so far. Every single board. I mean, we have a board that somehow has term limits, just like the city council. And so they move on, so you don't have a stagnant board. And they were very wise in doing it that way. And the board has always let the organization grow. They've left the wisdom of decision-making in the staff's hands. So that's the first group that I want to acknowledge. The other one that comes to mind is Central Pacific Bank. When we didn't have anything, they stepped forward to give us a loan to start the kitchen incubator. And I think that says a lot to their history. They started out because they couldn't get loans from the big banks. And so they pooled their funds together, and they were Japanese immigrants. And they remembered that other immigrants, from other ethnicities came in, and they were willing to help. The third person is a woman that I want to acknowledge, because she's the one who came to us. And she's from the Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration, and her name is Gail Fujita. In the community gatherings we did, they talked about a certified kitchen that was needed for the people. But we said, okay, just tucked it away back of our heads, never knowing where do we ever get money for something that big. She heard about it, and she walked into our offices one day and she said, I heard about the kitchen incubator you're thinking about, and we want to fund you. And this woman turned our life around. She not only led us through, she brought other partners to the table to help us. And of course, the other group is the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation. They have stepped forward to come and give us the money that's needed to complete the buildings. So I think that their mission, which was to help immigrants, is the same as what we had. The one who has blessed us is our senior senator, Senator Inouye. And for some reason, he really liked what we were doing. And we were, small potatoes in comparison to all the other projects that he's done, but he didn't forget us. So he's very special to us. We've also been blessed by Governor Waihee, who really liked our Pacific Islander Weavers Guild. And he would come and he would watch the women weave. And at that time, Congressman Neil Abercrombie was, very instrumental in the Small Business Administration and the micro enterprise, and he was there rooting for us all the way.
Another person I'd really like to thank is Ernie Martin. He's done so much for this center. And the staff. The staff are unbelievable. They've been here, many of them, for years and years and years. They're putting in hours and hours of their own time, and without them and Dr. Miang's leadership, none of these wonderful things would be happening. I have to commend Dr. Miang. She's an amazing woman. I mean, I met her first in 1987 and have seen her just develop, this multi-million-dollar not-for-profit that's providing services for thousands.
Happy 40th birthday, PGC.
I'm thankful for Pacific Gateway for having me and just helping me. They help me every day.
I want to wish Pacific Gateway Center happy 40th anniversary. I want everybody to know that Pacific Gateway Center had been made a huge impact in my life, and without the Pacific Gateway Center, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Pacific Gateway, thank you. Much, much mahalo. Happy 40th, okay? Thank you so much, Pacific Gateway.